Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Laratips. So in this video we'll be talking about Laravel components. So in my previous video I talked about the Laravel blade. If you haven't watched that, then you can go ahead and watch my previous tutorial. So before starting the tutorial, I'd like to share you something. So I created a bunch of video tutorials, but among them one of my video tutorial was published in the Laravel News official LinkedIn page, which was Laravel 8 routing. So I just wanted to share you some of the happy moments. So it's I'm really very happy that one of my contents is published here. So thank you Laravel News for that also. So without any delay, let's begin. So if you are familiar with the Vue.js, then it's very much similar to that. The syntax are very much similar, some of the syntax. Since it is a PHP, so it has some PHP sugars as well. Okay, now how to create a blade component. So there is a PHP artisan command for that. So to create a component, we need to type PHP artisan make component. So we'll be making one alert component. So alert component, and when I press enter, it will create two files, one component PHP file and another Vue. So let's go ahead and look into our project structure. Then we can see here inside app, Vue and components alert class, and inside the resource views components alert.blade.php. So it has created these two files. So let me open this alert file and this file. So let me open this in the separate splitted window. So there is this file on the left side, PHP file, and the Vue blade file on the right hand side. So if we look at this alert PHP file, then it is extending this component class, which is inside the illuminate Vue component, which is provided us by the Laravel, and it has a render method. So it is returning a view, which is components.alert, which is this. As you can see here, resources, views, components, and alert. So it is components.alert. Components is a folder and alert is a file. It is returning this. Okay, now it is an empty div for now. Let's say alert for now. Okay, now how to show this in our view. So currently in our web.php file, these are the routes that I have defined in my previous tutorial. So let us go to the home controller, and let us go to the, let me remove this, and let me go to the home.blade. So later here, if I go on the home page, then it is showing me this home text. Now to use this component, we have to do is x-alert, like this. You have to define, it should start with x dash and the name of the file. So alert, so since we have named our component name as alert, so it will be alert. So if it is let's say alert message, then it should be like this, alert dash, it should be alert dash message. Okay, so for now we'll be only looking at alert, and if we go ahead and refresh the page, then you can see here the alert is printed, which is from here. Now let us write some code. I have defined some classes here. For styling, I have used Tailwind CSS. Let's say the alert message, and let's say the close button. And let us give some background, let's say green. the white text. And if we go ahead and refresh here, as you can see here, this is coming from here. Okay, now all of these are static contents. Now how to make this dynamic? So to make it dynamic, what we can do is we can pass some parameters from this component which is inside the welcome.blade.php. So what we can do is, let us pass this message from here. Okay, for that what we need to do is, just like the normal HTML attributes, we can pass it like this: message equals to the colored message from here. And to accept it inside here, what we have to do is just echo it, message. Now let's see what happens. It will give us an error here. Okay, when I refresh the page, as you can see here, it is giving us the error which is saying the variable message is not defined. So we have passed the message from here and we are displaying it inside the alert.blade.php, but this alert doesn't know anything about that message variable. Okay, it is defined here, but it doesn't know anything about that, so it is giving us the error. So to resolve this error, what we have to do is we have to accept this message in the constructor of this alert.php file. Okay, so let's say message and this message. Okay, and let us define it here, message here. Now what happens is, whenever we pass any attribute from here, then it will look into this constructor method. Okay, and if this name matches, so if this name message and this name message matches, then it will assign this variable to this message property here. Okay, so now when we refresh the page, it is saying that unresolvable dependency resolving error. Sometimes the Laravel shows this error. So to fix this error, what we can do is we can clear the views. PHP partition clear. The view is cleared. What it does is it removes all the compiled views, all the views that are compiled by the Laravel. Okay, if you don't know about those compiled views, then you can watch my just previous lesson about the view, then you will know everything about this compiled views. And when I refresh the page, and you can see here the alert message, this message is coming from here. So let me rewrite another message, and when I refresh the page, you can see here this message is coming from here. Okay, this is the message. And what if we want to, let's say, show some error alert message? Then we have to pass another parameter from here. Let's say by default it will let us show the success alert, and if we pass any other type, like let's say error, then it will show this background as a red. Okay, so for that what we need to do is we need to pass from here, let's say type is equals to error, and for that we need to accept it over here. Let's say dollar, let's say type, and let us define it here also, type. Now this type error will get received here. Okay, now we need to show this busy green 600 and text white. It's showing this is showing the background color as a green, and this text is showing this text as white. So now let us define a method over here which will calculate which class we need to echo it here. Okay, so let's say function type class. So we will say if this type is equal to error, then we'll return something, but by default we'll be returning these classes. Okay, so if there is an error, then we will send red. So background color will be red, and if nothing is passed, then background color will be green. So let us remove this for now. Okay, and if we go ahead and refresh the page, the color will be gone. Now how to add this method over here? So what we can do is echo it here like this. So we can do type class. It will be available here as a variable, but we need to give it opening and closing bracket, because this method, this whole method will be available here as this type class, and to execute it we need to run the method. So we need this opening and closing brackets. Okay, so if we do this, then what we will get is we have passed error from here, type as error from here, and we are accepting the type here. And if the type is error, then we are returning this text equal text is white and background is red. Now this will be printed over here. Okay, when I refresh the page, as you can see, this is being printed. And when I inspect it, then you can see here the BG red 600 and text white is here. Now if I do not pass this text error, okay, I haven't passed anything, but I am accepting it here, then it should give us error. Like, okay, it is giving us error because we are expecting a parameter type, but we are not passing it from here. So to make it optional, we have to do is like this. We have to make it optional parameter. This is a basic PHP functionality. And when I refresh the page, now you can see it is a green color. You can see here BG green 600 and text is white, which is coming from here. Okay, so this is how you execute a method, this PHP class method inside this blade view alert component. Okay, and this is how we echo this type, these properties inside here. Okay, after that, suppose let's say you don't want to pass message from here, you want to pass message as a dynamic content, which means maybe it might be a variable or it might be a data that is coming from the session. Then what we can do is similar to that of the view, we can do it colon in front of this, and anything that is inside here is a PHP expression. So for it to be a string, we need to wrap it inside inverted commas. And I refresh the page, then it should be same. Okay, now what we can do is we can pass any variable from here. So let's say in this welcome.blade.php, what we are putting is this active nav is coming from the session. Okay, so what we can do is session active nav. Okay, so this is a PHP method. Now it should give us this home here. Okay, refresh the page and you can see here it is a home. So we can, so to pass any PHP variable or any PHP expressions, you need to make this attribute, we need to add semicolon in front of the attribute, and then we can pass any PHP expressions over here. Okay, now let's talk about slots. So what if you don't want to pass message like this? What if you want to, let's say, pass a message here, like let's say here, okay, the alert message from slot. Now if we do it like this and if we refresh the page, now it will be showing us the error because we are inside this alert component, we are expecting this message. So let us remove this, okay, for now. So we don't need this because we are not passing it as a property, props. Okay, now we don't need this, so we'll also be removing this message from here. So to accept, to pass these contents, any content inside the component like this, what we have to do is we have to add this slot variable. This is provided by the Laravel to us inside the component. It is automatically available. So anything we write in between these components will be replaced here. Okay, the alert message from slot should be now available here. Now if I refresh the page, and you can see here the alert message from slot is available here, and you can see here. So now we can pass any let's say p tag, well, let's say any HTML from here. So before we couldn't pass, so it would be very cumbersome. We could pass, but it would be very cumbersome to write the HTML inside that attribute. Now we can pass any HTML attributes into this component. Now if I refresh the page, and now you can see here it is, now the p tag is inside the div inside here. Okay, so this is how you pass the slot to the Laravel component. Okay, now let's see how to pass additional attributes to the component. So we have here class. Now let's say you want to pass any other attribute, let's say style. Let's say data dash id is equal to, let's say 23. You want to pass this to the component. Okay, now let's see what it does when we pass this data id is equals to 23. So when I refresh the page and look at this, no, there it is not appearing here. So to make this appear here inside here, so here what we have to do is, there is a variable that Laravel provides us inside this component is attributes. So we are simply echoing the attribute over here, and now this is saved. And now when I refresh the page, now you can see here data id is equals to 23. Now whatever we pass here except the properties that we have defined in this alert component here constructor, whatever we pass, that will be appended to this section. Okay, now let's see, we have a class already, class attribute is already present here. Now what will happen if we pass class from here? Let's give us height is equals to 32. Okay, height equals to 32. Then if I refresh the page, now let's see what happens. Oh my god, all the designs are gone. So you can see here inside the console here, there is only S32 class. All the other class are removed. So whatever we pass from here will replace things here. Okay, so what since we are adding these attributes in the beginning of the div, so whatever we pass from here will take the priority. Okay, now let me remove it and let me add it to the right hand side. Okay, now let's see what happens. Now you can see we are getting the green color. Okay, but not the H32 class is not here. So whatever on the left hand side of this component will get higher priority than which is on the right hand side. Okay, so all this data will be inserted here like this, but this one will get the priority. Okay, so now we need both the classes. Now how can we accomplish that? So for that, Laravel has a very useful method. So let us add this in the beginning. There is a method called merge. Now what we can do is pass the class as a key and all these classes as a value. Okay, now we can add this, concatenate this in the class. Let us remove this, and after that what we can do is concatenate it like this. Okay, doing a space. Now what happens is, this will be the default classes that will always be available for this component, and whatever we add from here will be appended after these classes. Okay, so now if I refresh the page, this S32 should be available here. When I refresh the page, now you can see here the height has been increased, and you can see here S32 over here. So if we want both the classes, the inside the component as well as that we are passing it from outside as a property, we need both of them. Then we need to do merge like this. Okay. So also if we want any other default attributes, then we can say, let's say data name hello, then this will also be available here. You can see here data name is hello, so this will also be available. So for now, let me remove this. Okay, so you can see your data ID is 23 and this is also available here. Now what if I do, let's say data ID equals to 22 and refresh the page? You can see here we are getting 23, which is being passed from here. Now again, just repeating to make you clear, if I remove this and add it in the beginning, then this one will get precedence, okay, over this one. So we'll get whatever we pass from here, it will be ignored and 22 will be the value. You can see here the ID is 22, so we must keep this in mind. Always keep the attributes variable in the front of this div. Okay, so this is how we merge the attributes that are being passed from the component and which is inside the component. So there are other ways of returning. So for now we are returning a view from this render method, so we can also return some inline data, okay, inline HTML, but that is I would not recommend you to use this way, because separating the logic and view in a separate file is a pretty good idea, and they will be separate and it will be very easy for us to maintain if the app grows. So if we see here, let us go to the top and components, inline component views, and you can see here we can return the values like this. If we had 3 less than and the blade inside the single inverted inside the inverted comma, and we have to end it with a blade semicolon, and whatever we write inside here, this part and this part will be same. So we can just copy this part and paste it here. If we do it like here, then it will work the same way. Okay, but I'll not recommend you doing this. So this is how you make a component in a Laravel. So now what if you want to organize a component into a different folder structure? So let's look into that. So if we go ahead and look here, by default Laravel will generate the component inside the components folder, here also inside the components folder. Now we want this alert to go inside the UI folders, okay, inside the components UI. Now when I refresh the page, it will show us an error that components alert is not found, but we have this inside the UI folder. Okay, so in order for that to work, we have to go inside this alert component and components.ui.alert. Now if we pass it like this, now it will be okay. Now when you refresh the page, now you can see here it is working correctly. Also let's look by changing this. Okay, so if I also keep it inside the UI/alert, and again if we refresh the page, it will break our code. Now to make this to use this alert inside our page, what we have to do is, now look at it, it is x-alert. As I said, that it is the name of the file. Okay, but Laravel will look by default inside the components folder, but it is not there inside the components folder, it is inside the UI folder. So what we have to do is, I'll select this both, and what we have to do is x-ui. Okay, this is component, so it will be x-ui dot alert. Okay, all the folders will be separated using the dot sign, and the file will be at the end. So if we have, let's say, ui/alert/alert.php, then it would be x-ui.ui.alert. Okay, now let me refresh the page. So what is it is saying? So cannot redeclare the class app view components because the name is already in use. It is showing this error because if we look at here inside the alert, we changed the namespace. Okay, we changed the folder where it lives now, and here we haven't changed the namespace. So let's say UI here, and let us refresh the page, and it will not show an error here. Okay, so we have done all this manually, but all these folder structures can also be generated by the php artisan command. Okay, now let us create another php artisan make component. Let us say UI/pup. Okay, now when I hit enter, it will create again two files, the pop-up php file and the pop-up blade file, which will be inside the UI directory. So you can see here it is inside the pop-up is inside the UI directory, as well as this pop-up blade file is also in it. And if we look at here pop-up, the namespace will automatically added by the Laravel artisan command. Okay, so this is how we create these components nested inside the directory. Okay, so we can use this similarly like alert component. So it will be x-ui.popup. Now let us go to the welcome.blade.php. So let's say you have a lot of components and those are all nested within inside a lot of folders. Then you don't want to, let's say ui.api.hello.word, you don't want this to be your component to look like this here. Okay, you just want to call it like this, x-alert and nothing, and it will just reference these components. Okay, in order to do that, so let's refresh the page. So currently it is unable to locate the class and view. So for this to work, we need to do some extra work. So for that, let's look into the Laravel documentation, and we can see at the top here we have to write some code in the app service provider, in the boot method of the app service provider. So you can see here like this. Okay, so if I go to the app service provider, which is inside the app providers, app service provider here, let me remove this now. Inside the boot method, what we can do is blade, and this is imported here, as you can see here, element support facade blade component. Now whatever we want to give the name of the component, we have to give here, let's say alert. So this we can reference this value here. Okay, so and we have to give the class that we want to reference when we are calling this alert component. So this is alert class. So this class is imported here, as you can see here. So now if I refresh the page, it should work. So now you can see here we can easily reference our component as just x-alert. We don't need to pass .ui any other expressions. Okay, so this is the way to simplify the component name. Now let's say you want some components but you don't want to create these files, okay, like PHP files. So you only need the component. Let's say you have a card component and you only want to pass some contents, but for that you don't need to make a class. Okay, so for that what we can do is we can directly create a file inside the components folder. Now if we say card.php, this, now whatever file, blade file we create inside the components directory will be available as a component. If we go to the welcome.blade.php, and if we say here, let's say x-card. Okay, now we can reference it as card like this, since it is present inside the components. Okay, so if we go here and create a div file and the card component. And if you go ahead and refresh the page here, now we can see here the card component is available here. This component is can be written like this. Okay, so what we can do is just what we have done in that previously slot. If you write slot here and if you pass the card component from slot, then we can see the same thing over here. So what we can do is now, let's say, give some class, and if we refresh the page here, so you can see here the card is over here. Let us give it some more p8, and what we can do is, let's say 2 and 3, and we don't need to worry about the styling. Let's say mb-4, okay, margin bottom 4. And if we see here, with all the design, all of them will have the same design. We do not need to copy the classes in all of these components. It will all be applied. So it also works in the similar way. So let's say we want this card to be inside the card folder, okay, like this. So currently, so okay, it's inside the components card and card.blade.php. So in order to get this also, we need to do similarly as above. x-ui.card, sorry, not card.card, x-card is this folder name, and card is the name of the blade file at the end. And if I refresh the page, it will work similarly. So in this way, you can create a component without creating component PHP file. So this is how you make components in Laravel. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.